this is what I call the graveyard shift. I mean, you all know this is the last session of the day. And before I actually introduce the panelists on the session and introduce myself, and you can see what the theme of the day is as well, I just want to say I'm a little bit competitive, okay? So I have been taking a tally of how many questions each of the sessions have got so far, okay? So you need to help me. Everybody in this room, you've had your cakes, okay? 30 years of RPS. We need to get as many questions as we can today. You know, it is the great pensions engagement dilemma. So we have to, being ironic, we have to get as many questions and good engagement from the room. So the highest questions the session got was Nick's. I've got Nick here. So I'm hoping that this session, because it's going to be about benefits and engagement, we will get some more questions. Total count of questions we got all day was 13, so if anybody's superstitious, we definitely need to beat that number. Okay, so before I introduce the panelists, let me introduce myself. I am Fatima Baig. I am, as you can see up on the screen, an employer-nominated trustee director of the Railways Pension Scheme. I work for Network Rail, that's my day job, it keeps me very busy. I look after learning and development for finance at Network Rail. So this week is Learning at Work Week, for those of you that don't know. So great that we're doing a pensions conference today because we're learning loads of things about pensions. But also I am running tomorrow and day after 3 talent development programs and we're closing our talent development programs for the finance community, for the rail industry. So any finance people out there, come and speak to me if you're interested in joining a free talent program with us. There, I've done a bit of a plug. Let's begin. So you can see the topic of the day. You will also have noticed we've actually lowered our seats, so we're not on those uncomfortable high stools. That'll be me. I asked for this to be a bit of a casual setting, and we're going to have a very informal discussion with our panelists here today. I don't know if you have read, there was a report last year which was called Understanding Member Engagement with Workplace Pensions, and it was a joint report done by DWP and Government Social Research. And what they did was they did lots of interviews and discussions and research, and they found out about member engagement. Some of the key findings on that was that participants' attitudes to pensions were characterized by detachment, fear, and complacency, which acted as a barrier to engagement. Motivation to proactively engage was low. And the report identified a broad range of factors that can affect people's capacity for engagement. So here we are today to talk about how the trustee, because as a trustee, we are the custodian for such an incredibly diverse scheme membership type. We've heard about it, we've got OpenDB, we've got CARE, we've got DC. But as trustees, and with Railpen's support, how do we overcome these engagement barriers? So I'm expecting lots of questions from the room, okay? And also virtually as well, by the way. So let's do a bit of a show of hands, and it would be nice if people that are on Teams can also engage and raise your hand. We will not count that as a question being asked, but just raise your hand on Teams, please. So if you could raise your hand if you believe in this statement. It's important that members understand their pension and that they engage with it to help them make the most of their benefits. So raise your hand if you agree with this statement. So I can see a lot of raised hands, a few heads shaking as well, but lots of raised hands, thank you. Now, raise your hand if you believe in this statement. Engaging members with their pensions isn't too important, as long as they continue contributing as a member. Okay, great. I hope there's no hands raised, Chris, on Teams as well. I can see a nod at the back. Very good. So, all right, let's begin. Enough talk. Let's ask loads and loads of questions. So I'm going to start from Nick. You've heard from Nick already. Nick Cromack, who is our Chief Officer Benefits, who's from Railpen. So you can see actually there's 3 people from Railpen, but we've got other members as well from the panel. Dominic is an active member of the Transport for Wales section. Dominic, thank you for joining us today. And we've got David. David is a retired member for the Transport for Wales section, so we're Transport for Wales heavy today. Brilliant, brilliant. Now we've got Rob Hughes as well. Rob is our Head of Customer Experience at Railpen. And we've got John Robson, Chief Technology Officer. Thank you to all of you.
Technology heavy now.
Yes, we've got technology. We will have some technology questions as well. And then we've got Jackie Donaghy. She is Senior Pensions and Payroll Services Manager for South Western Railway, so she will give us a bit of the employer's perspective. So firstly, thank you, all of you, for beginning. So in terms of housekeeping, if there's any questions, Chris, I will look at you. If you give me a wave, then we'll take the questions from Teams. We want to keep it very interactive, so if you do have a question and you can see us passionately in discussion, raise your hand and I will come to you. So I will be trying to glance across the room as well. But we will stop for breath and we'll take some questions as we go along. So I guess, Nick, you're right next to me, so I'd like to begin with you first. Could you tell us, what's the landscape looking like in terms of member engagement across our schemes? Could you give us an overview of that?
We've got increased disclosure regulations. That means we've got to tell our members more. We talked earlier about the abolition of the lifetime allowance. People think that that just impacts the high earners. It doesn't. That has impacted every single member in their retirement. A couple of years ago, we had stronger nudge. So what did that mean? That meant for all of our brass members, we need them to complete something now, even though actually that regulation doesn't really impact them in the same way. So, yeah, it's difficult in order to be able to get members to engage, to understand the communications that we give our members. And on top of that, we've already been talking about the complexity. So when we're trying to get them to understand their benefits and actually how lucky they are to have the benefits in the RPS, the challenges are significant. So when we think about how members are engaging with us, we find that we get no engagement whatsoever in the early years, and it's only when members are approaching that retirement event that we actually see members start to talk to us, start to ask about their estimates, start to think about their membership and benefits, and by that point it's a little bit too late. It's a little bit too late to capitalise off the fact that probably in July many contributions for our active members will go down because of the valuation, and as a result of that they could be ploughed more into their brass. But will they do that? Possibly not. You know, in the break, I got approached by 2 different parties about how we're getting engagement so wrong. And that's because we're not talking to the members in the right way. They're so diverse in how the members want to talk to us and engage with us. We think we're doing it right. We've got the video content. We're now doing more on digital. But actually we're finding members still want paper. Members still want to talk to us through the post. Our members don't even want to talk to us at all. So in terms of that landscape and what the outlook looks like, I think out of everything we're doing, whether it's the complexity of the calculations or making the systems work or the efficiencies, the biggest challenge we've actually got is the engagement with members. And that's going to become even more difficult once pension dashboards comes and people start, and the government, and they start to ramp up this campaign. How we're going to react to that is going to be crucial. So it's probably the single most important thing that we're doing right now.
Thank you, Nick. And I've got, lovely show of hands.
Just while we're talking on engagement and diversity, I've got a comment, some questions from teams.
Perfect, let's take it.
Elizabeth Wallace, DB Cargo. I think there's 2 strands to this. Can the trustee or Railpen hold member engagement forums to get access to views from a diverse membership, active, deferred and retired members? I'm not aware these take place. Rather than being panels for feedback or input, can it be a forum similar to this, with any or all members invited? I presume it would need to be limited when in person, but could it be unlimited on Teams? So that's the first question, a request to get access to views from a diverse membership of members. Secondly, can member engagement become a regular quarterly agenda item on pension committee agendas? Speaking on behalf of DB Cargo's pensions committee, the committee members are from a diverse representation of the workforce, and we have a representation of retired membership, and they all contribute to meetings, particularly when discussions are at regarding member experience people.
Thank you, really good question. Nick, would you like to address both?
Yes, yeah.
And then we go to some of our members and hear more.
Oh, just a quick follow-up. So back again. How about
Keep it
trialing
coming.
some in-person roadshows?
So when I talked this morning about member first and trying to understand what the members want, it was really reconfirmed. A couple of chaps from pension committees talked to me in the break and said, you are getting this really wrong. You don't understand our members. You don't understand how to engage with us. It was really helpful. One of the things that we have to do, and we've not been doing, is we've not engaged with the cross-representation of our members. We've taken a segment and we've looked for those that are already online, that are already engaged with their pension, possibly already retired. It's too late, it's the wrong segment that we're really targeting. So yes, we absolutely want to do something that will provide a cross-representation, start to capitalise off the induction programmes that employers have, so they understand at day one the importance and how beneficial these benefits are. So it's certainly something we want to do there. What we're doing this round on the pension committees is we're trying to get all of my leadership team and making a commitment that we will attend every single pension committee where we can and present our quarterly report. Now in that quarterly report we're looking at something very different. We've already talked about how ineffective the SLAs are, and that shouldn't be the main focus of our discussions. It should be about member engagement, insights, what is the data telling us in terms of how can we better engage with our members to ensure they are capitalising off the grass. What does the opt-outs look like? Why are people opting out? Why are people not changing their investments when they should be proactively thinking about their target retirement age? Why haven't they filled out a nomination form? All of these things are super important, yet we don't talk about it. We don't use those pension committees to do that. So it's absolutely something that we're moving forward with. And then yes, the teams is a great idea, and it's a great way now that we could kind of get a broader group of members to be able to give them further insights into the benefits that they've got with the RPS.
Thank you, Nick. I think technology really is changing the way we engage with our members, and you're absolutely spot on. We don't want to preach to a crowd that's already sold. We need to make sure we're getting the right information across to them at the right time when they need it. So I'd like to hear from Dominic and David, as well as active and retired members, both of you. What is your take on all of what we're hearing, particularly in terms of engagement for members?
I think for me, RPS is doing a lot of good stuff, the planner, the things that have come through online, but there are a lot of members, as you say, that don't engage. And one that completely threw me, my wife's an HR manager, and she's interviewing people for roles who are very young people in their 20s and early 30s who are very suspicious about their data and where it goes. Now, in my mind, a very stereotype really that the older member and a retired member might not be online, might not be looking at the planner or the website, and then you've got all these people who are 50s downwards, if you like, that why aren't they going on there? There is now a lot of people coming through who don't do Facebook, who don't want to do Instagram. It was an eye-opener for me, because you automatically think, oh, the youngsters are doing all this stuff, and there it is, and you just need to be on there. But so it makes it extremely complicated, and you need to have all sorts of, from face-to-face forums. We were talking earlier about the employers, Aviva Trades Wales, which preceded Transport for Wales, to me seem to have we can't say anything about pensions to our employees because we could be deemed as giving advice. So they would shy away from it. If you've got a pension scheme, there you go, there's the information, but it would be very, very restrictive. Whereas now they're going out and they're having roadshows, they're talking to people about the simple stuff like nomination forms and what you need to fill in. So I think it's not just down to Railpen. I think with partnership with the companies and people say about the unions. I mean, I'm a union rep, and when I go to new starters and to talk about a union, I tend to start talking, probably all I should do, start talking about grass and stuff like that, because I'm passionate about it, and to get them to think about it early on. So there's no one format, and I think that's a problem. If you're saying it's good to got it wrong, I don't think they necessarily got it wrong. It's just you focused, I think, rather than focused on online and planner, which is great. But if you're not on there, there's very little.
Thank you, Dominic. I think this is an age of information overload, and you're getting it from so many places. But we also need to be conscious of that. We need to be mindful of what channels we're using. So I hear you in terms of, and I know that Railpen is looking at that. And if you do have any ideas, for those of you that are in the room, if you've got any ideas on Teams, please do share them with us. We will certainly look at them, incorporate them as part of our engagement. David.
People are probably wondering why, out of thousands of members, hundreds of thousands of members, 2 oiks from Transport for Wales are sitting. The reason is we run a Facebook group on railway and state pensions. So many members come to us on Facebook to ask some very complicated questions sometimes. Even we struggle to understand them, let alone answer them. But also very simple questions. And I think we should be paid, really, because we're answering a lot of questions. When I go to Railpen, what's the maximum I can pay to brass? I've been with Network Rail for 5 years. Do I go into care? Do I go into RPS 65? And all these things we try to address and signpost people to find the information. But it's as Dominic said, we have such a diverse membership, from the older people and from the name. It's a pension scheme. There are a lot of pensioners. They're pen and paper stalwarts. They want to pick up the phone. They want to write a letter to people who've only just joined the railway industry in their 20s. They're quite happy with an app. Go on a website, get their information, whatever. And again, it's reiterating the same old thing, really. We've got such a diverse membership. We need to engage with them in so many different ways. We can't just have one form or another form. We need to be using all of them if we want to, engage with these people.
Thank you, David. We'll take one question from Jonathan, and then we'll come to you, Chris.
Sorry, we have a question through the rather unorthodox channel of WhatsApp. It's from David Madison from the 1994 and BRSF committees. And David asks, does the panel think the industry confuses communication and engagement? From David's point of view, the engagement is the what and the communication is the how. Railpen do the communication and the members then do the engagement. What is the panel's view on this?
Very good question.
Yeah,
Rob.
I don't mind starting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think David's got a point there in terms of the difference. Comms is obviously communicating a message, and engagement is somebody then engaging with that. But I think our role is to engage the members, so finding ways to get them to engage with that content. So I think David just touched on some of the reasons why that's a challenge, but I think we're going to come on to that. But I definitely think that, the trick is we can put information out there, but if it's not communicated in the right way, if it's not written in the right way, if it's not engaging, you're not going to get the members to understand that and buy into that and engage with that. So I think it's a good point. I think there is a difference between just communicating a message and finding ways to get people to actually engage with that content. But yeah, we can talk a little bit about what we're doing in that space.
Yes, absolutely. We talk about barriers in a second, but it's communication. If you're doing it to a brick wall, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's why sometimes you have to put communication and people being able to engage with that together. So I completely get the what and how. We're not trying to give advice to people as to what to do with it, but to be able to communicate and educate them so that they can engage in their own pensions effectively. That's the message we're trying to get. Chris.
Yeah, thank you. This might be a nice segue into barriers. Mike Pear has said, as a committee member representing the retired and preserved members of our section, but I'm unable to contact the members as I am not allowed email addresses due to data protection, etc. How can we get around this so I can help and engage with the members? This would help pass on the important messages. The wider we can communicate to the members, the better, but we have our hands tied.
You can sometimes be really passionate and want to share information. You've got to be careful when you're doing it. You could use the Facebook group. You could really use the Facebook group because that is independently run. We'll talk about the Facebook group a bit later as well, but it is an independently run and there are lots of people that are passionate about pensions and they want to share information on there. So if you're not on that Facebook group, I would suggest independently join it if you like, but we've got you can actually, data protection is something we have to all live with, and we have to abide by it as well as organizations and also as individuals. Should we talk about the barriers? I think that's probably a good input into, Rob, if you can tell us a little bit about the barriers that we face in terms of...
Yeah, sure, yeah. I think what's interesting is some of these barriers have come up organically as we've been talking today, and some of the presentations I've been listening and I've heard some things and thought I'm going to be talking about them later. So I think a big barrier is clearly pensions is complex, it's a complex subject, and communicating that to members in a way that's meaningful, that they can understand. And listen, we all know we've got a broad range of members. We're not just talking about the same demographic, members with different skills, competency, understanding, vulnerable customers. We've got to find ways to talk to all of those members. And we're not always great at using consistent language. And Richard, I'm pleased you sat at the front, because you know what I'm going to say. Earlier on you said, I say deferred, you say preserved. Yeah. Well, that's just a really small example of two words mean the same thing, used in different... Before I joined Railpen, it was always deferred as well, by the way, if that makes you feel any better. So I think that, you know, using consistent language is really important, and we don't always do that. But we always sort of are quite insular, but we forget that actually when we think about members, they're people, not members, and they've got competing priorities in their life. And, you know, pensions is just one thing amongst a huge sea of distractions and information and things to think about. We know that financial stress is one of the biggest causes of worry in the UK, and, you know, they'll be thinking about financial issues they've got today in the here and now, not something that might happen in 20, 30, 40 years' time. It's really hard to put yourself in that mindset. What's going to be happening in 30 years' time? So, you know, I would say, yeah, pensions is complex, and yeah, we need to communicate it in the right way. But I think there's also, you know, one of the biggest barriers for me is time. We're competing for members' time here with a subject that's probably quite far down on the priority list. Like, I've quoted this before, but I think it was Netflix that said that their biggest competitor was sleep, not for, you know, that's true. So, you know, you can see that time and people's time and attention is a real barrier. So I think what we've got to do is maximise that small window of opportunity we get where somebody's going to think about their pension. So yeah, I think complexity is an issue, but I think time and the fact that it's very difficult to put yourself in that mindset in the future when you've got things to think about in the here and now. So I think they're all the sort of barriers that we're encountering, and language is obviously big.
Oh, definitely, the complexity. I mean, I've been here 3 years now, and some of the terms that I hear, it's absolutely insane, but you get to grips with it and you start speaking the same language. Nick, would you like anything to add to that in terms of barriers?
Yeah, I'm aware we've got quite a few CFOs sat with us today, and value keeps on cropping up, and we need value for the RPS. Now, to go out and do roadshows, to better engage, to reach out to the front line who aren't going on the portal, that costs a lot of money, and Railpen has only got so many resources, and when we've got to deal with the pension dashboards, the GMP equalisation, all of these regulatory responsibilities as well, engagement soon goes down the priority. It should be number one, but it isn't because of the regulation and because actually we've only got a finite number of resources. So I think that's another huge barrier. It's not just the member, it's how do we reach the member when we can't always do that with the resources that we have.
So segue to the employers then, Jackie. Okay, shall we take Russ's question first, and then we come to hear from the employers in a second. Russ?
Shall I call it out?
No, do not. Wait for the mic, please.
Actually, it is a bit of a segue, because I was wondering to what extent do we think that Railpen, in terms of consistency of messaging, uses the sponsors, i.e. the employers, as a means of delivering some of this and taking some of the burden off Railpen themselves. I mean, there are quite a few benevolent employers out there, including most of the sponsors of the scheme. They'd like to get the messaging across. It's quite complicated, it's quite tricky. So if there was consistent form of messaging from Railpen for them to pass on in any particular area, is that something we feel we're doing sufficiently today?
Yeah, no, I think we've done some. I think we've gone away towards that. I definitely think there's more we can do. Something we pushed out last year was the Employee Toolkit, which was a website built for employers where we would put content across across a range of subjects from pension basics to scams, tax, and those materials were in that consistent language that I was talking about before. The concept being employers could download those materials and share them with their employees. So first thing I would say is if you haven't been on the employee toolkit, get on there and have a look what's there. We're going to keep updating that and keep that fresh. But there's always more we could do, especially in the member engagement space. There's definitely more we could do and work more closely. But I think we've had some successes. Jackie's nodding because we helped her with some bits and pieces as well. So there's definitely more we can do.
Thank you. Jackie, it would be nice to hear from an employer.
So, from an employer's perspective, the employer toolkit is a very good one. It gives the employer the tools that they need to be able to communicate with employees. But again, it is just a communication tool, it's not that engagement piece. I think it's a great selling point, it is a benefit for employees, so the engagement should be there from day one with them. We don't do anything on induction at the moment, but I think we should probably do that going forward. Obviously, as a payroll person as well, it's that sort of thing that you need to try and get employees to understand it's just another deduction, rather than seeing it as something they have the option to opt out of. And then if you get them on board early on to say that it's just another thing, the benefits, we were talking earlier on, weren't we, about the fact that we don't really teach this stuff in school, so people are scared of pensions because they don't understand them. And as the employer, it's up to us to try and do that engagement piece with them and let them know. But again, a lot of employers, we have dedicated people that within SWR that are constantly engaged in the pension arena. So therefore, we have the ability to go out and do roadshows with our employees and do that engagement piece with them. It is still very hard to get them to understand some of the things that we want them to do, filling out nomination forms. You know, I've been on banging that drum for probably 3 years now, and we still haven't necessarily got that level up that we would need for people to fill out their nomination forms. Because it takes the pressure off other teams. If the nomination forms aren't filled out, HR take a lot of pressure when things happen and have to deal with families over stuff that Steve was talking about earlier on around when we've got death in service and things like that. It can get very tricky. And so many, especially recently, people have not filled out the nomination form, and if they're not married and not necessarily living together or things like that, it can make it very, very difficult, and it ends up in committee quite often.
Thank you, Jackie. I mean, I can speak on behalf of finance at Network Rail because we recruit graduates and apprentices. My team recruits them for the finance community at Network Rail. And we started doing inductions on pensions. So we do pensions webinars and bring pensions experts in. We've got a team, again, similar to Southwest Railway, where we've got a dedicated team that looks after pensions. So we would bring them in, and the younger generation is engaging a lot on pensions, and they want to know what that means and the impact. It's just that we have to wait 5 years to get enrolled onto RPS for the Network Rail section. We'll take a question here from this gentleman, then we'll come to you, Chris, after.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I just ask either Nick or Rob what new members to the Royal Pension Scheme receive, and what method do you get for sending it out? Does it go electronically, or like in my day, through the post?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, it's a great question because we did loads on this last year, so thanks for that. So, in terms of new joiners, we'll probably come on to this, but one of the things that we think is really important for member engagement is proactive communications of what we call moments of truth. So the big moments in somebody's sort of pension life cycle. So new joiner, pre-retirement, those sorts of times. So we overhauled our new joiner pack last year, so members get a glossy, really engaging physical new joiner pack in the post. That gives them a really good summary of what it means to be in the scheme, some of the key points. And then what that does is it takes them on an online journey as well, where they can watch an introduction video, sort of welcome video, encourages them to register for the website. We built a good to know guide, not a need to know guide, a good to know guide, because there's lots of things in there. We're not expecting somebody to read everything in one go, but they'll sort of take it with them on their journey and refer back to it. So that's like a downloadable document people have got access to. So we built a really nice sort of new joiner journey last year. We We've seen an increase in the uptake of people registering for the member website on the back of that pack, and we're looking to do the same thing with the pre-retirement phase as well this year.
Just to add to that, we did a trial with some employers. I think it was it last year? Last year we did this, and it was the Knowledge Hub for employers. And we looked at new member, and when we did that, we looked at the journeys that you as employers were giving the new member relative to our journey. And neither party in this small cohort were telling the member what their contribution rate was. Now in the scheme booklet, it will tell you that, but it will tell you category you're not protected. So we've done a lot of work, but there's still a lot I think we need to do in terms of that journey planning with employers so that the member absolutely understands exactly what they're getting. So I think it was back to that earlier point, how do we support the member through the employer? I think there's more work there that we need to do.
I'm just conscious, I do want to take the question from Chris, because John has been waiting patiently to be asked a question, and I'm just thinking...
You've answered all the questions.
From technology's perspective and engagement and use of technology, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the place where all of the roads converge, really, because whilst I totally agree, and you know, there are people that absolutely need to require things in paper-based format, that world will not go away anytime soon. Nevertheless, the opportunity to actually take that engagement rather than the communications and get all those different journey maps of all the different members, because different people want different journeys. And there's loads of examples of that which we've already been through. COVID accelerated the online journey. You didn't have a choice, you couldn't go into a bank, you couldn't do these things. So people have now got very, very comfortable with certain types of journeys, but generally it's when they choose to elect to go on that journey. And the dashboard piece is a perfect example. The minute I need to know that answer, I'm going to go and find a dashboard, whether it's my banking account dashboard or my pensions dashboard. So the point around actually listening more to the members' journeys and getting that diversity captured informs the way that you can then best apply the technology. And I think, you know, again, linking back to Nick's point around member first, if you measure it, not just how they use it, but how much they use it, but where they dwell on a page, when they leave, how often. You build a hotspot map, you may have 100 pages in a website, but you may use 5 of them. And that goes back to the point about time, because it's not just time, it's time to value. If you use one click on Amazon, who doesn't? That's time to value in action. That's, I want to buy some toothpaste, it's there, click, deliver tomorrow. So if you're going to engage them and you're going to ask them to give you time, don't waste that time and give them value right up front. So I think that technology does play a pivotal role in this, but informed by what the member needs, not, if you like, imposed upon the member because we think that's the way they should enact. So I think that's where technology plays.
Yeah.
We're a double act, so
you passed on to me, John, is that right? Thank you. Yeah, I think, you know, Nick might have talked about channel choices for now. Yeah, so channel choice is obviously important for members. We want to give them the opportunity to engage how they want to engage, but the trend we're seeing is that a lot of members do want to use digital and they do want to self-serve. We've got 130,000 members circa around that registered for the member portal. You just talked about nominations, Jackie. 97% of all nominations are done on the member website. So the trends are telling us that a lot of members want to self-serve, even the retired ones, David. We've got a lot on there. So I think that, you know, it's about balance, but I think it's providing the functionality and the tools for members who do want to engage, like the planner, do want to come to the website to find content, but not taking away those other channels for vulnerable members or members who maybe do want to pick up the phone.
Absolutely. Chris, should we come to you?
Yeah.
You have a question?
Thank you. It's a couple of variations on the Facebook group theme. First, both from employees. First from Elizabeth Wallace at DB Cargo, who admits she's not familiar with the Facebook page, so the comments need to be taken in that context. She also said at the end that she's conscious my comment may be divisive, so strap yourselves in. Is the Facebook page just leaving members to their own devices, Isn't quality member engagement about Railpen delivering the important, accurate messages as effectively as possible to the diverse membership? Given how complex pensions is, and the RPS even more so, if members get into a misunderstanding spiral, that isn't helpful. If the Facebook page can point people in the right direction or increase awareness, then that could be helpful. That's the first comment. I'll give you the second comment while we're on the Facebook theme.
Yes, if it's related to the Facebook theme, please do so, because what I would like to do is hear from Dominic and David on the Facebook page, and then go to Nick from Railpen side, and we can address the comments there.
Okay, thank you. So I think Elizabeth's comment was to do with the misunderstanding spiral potential. Catherine Santomas, Transport for Wales, has said, member engagement for employees is challenging. We have a dedicated pension inbox and get questions from members daily. We also arrange online meetings and visit local depots as a roadshow for one-to-ones and group sessions, including sessions with support from ASLEF. Members should be using these channels as opposed to Facebook groups who are not necessarily qualified to comment and may risk straying into advice. If there are Facebook forums in addition to Railpen materials online, can they help support employee initiatives?
Great. So yes, I mean, the thing is, it's all about having different mediums and going to the official sources where you need to get official information, going to the employers where you need to get information from your employer, going to the right people. So I think that challenge is there for employers, for Railpen, and for the Facebook page as well, that we're all collectively helping each other to make sure we direct them to the right employers or organization, whatever that may be, for that specific question. I mean, sometimes I get asked questions about the network rail section of RPS, and I have to direct them to the pensions committee or the pensions team at Network Rail that deals with it, or the pensions committee, because I am a trustee and I look after all of the different sections. I am not qualified to answer questions about the Network Rails section, so I would direct it to the right place. But it would be nice to hear first from yourselves, Dominic and David, about a little bit more about the Facebook page, and then we can hear from Railpen on that.
Yeah, I think the Facebook page can work in conjunction. Let's look at Transport for Wales, same as South Wales Railway and many other companies, are now actively engaging with the employees, which is fantastic, and it's really positive to see them doing that. But they, again, Nicholas over RPS, to take a roadshow and to take these people out to locations, and this I don't want to sound negative because it's not, but they go to a depot for 4 hours on one day when two-thirds of the staff won't be around, the 1/3 that are will be out on trains or whatever. It's really great, it's really positive, and they will be engaging with people, but there is a huge amount of members that can't get there. And that's not criticism, but it's an engagement, it's fantastic, but it can only serve so many people. The Facebook group is there all the time. We are very careful not to give advice, because as soon as you stray to say this is what you should do, you're very, very murky waters. And most of the inquiries are extremely simple, and they are, as David said earlier, how much can I put into advice? We can't answer that. We can point them in the right direction of, right, well, you need to contact, but sometimes it's contact your employer. They don't know whether to contact RPS or to contact their employer, so they don't really do anything because it's all too complicated and they can't think about it. So it's basically contact your payroll or if you have a pensions department, and they can tell you. So Catherine at Transport was saying that people are contacting them. That's great. I would argue that part of that is probably coming from the Facebook group with people engaging, getting interested, asking questions. This is where you need to go, and pointing them in that direction. And I think it's a teamwork thing. It doesn't have to be just RPS. It doesn't just have to be the employer. A lot of it is people in depots. Even you print out the grass forms and you put a pile of them on the side, and you tell people the forms there, and they're all gone. People are saying, so what do I put in here? Is this a bit? And it starts a discussion, and that's really, really simple. But again, that's another way to bring engagement. So it doesn't have to be, and I can understand the some employers being quite suspicious of it, but it doesn't have to be,
we don't want that, we do this. It can be a partnership thing.
And we probably generate work for them, truthfully now, because we'll say, you know, if you want to know about this, speak to your pensions manager now at Transport for Wales or wherever it might be. You know, we've got 17,500 members on this Facebook group, and it's an open forum. You know, we don't limit who posts. Yes, there is some misinformation, because people hear things in their mess rooms and their depots. Oh, I heard you have to do this, I heard you have to do that. And we have a discussion then, because that's what Facebook's about. There's a discussion. It's like, no, you're not quite right there. It works this way. Or if you want clarification, there's a Readers You Need guide at Railpen. Here's the link. Have a read yourself. You know, we can do a lot of positive things, but because it is Facebook and because it is open, there are some miscommunications. It's natural. It's bound to happen, but we try and put them right. We try and say, no, look, you need to do this or you need to do that. And it's no worse than being in a mess room, in a depot. And, oh, old John says you have to do this, or old John says you have to do that. You know, and they believe, you know, the older members in the mess room.
And that was what I was going on actually. In this break that I had, talking to really two insightful pension committee members, they were telling me about all the myths of what members actually think about their benefits. This is happening irrespective if it's on a Facebook community or whether it's at the depots. What Facebook does, it's not a Railpen, it's not our social media, that's absolutely true. But what it does is a manifestation of what's already happening, and it gives us an insight into the members. What I would say is it is controlled to some extent. We monitor that Facebook group daily. Yeah, we're monitoring it daily, and Rob, as my head of CX, is talking to the administrators on a regular basis to ensure that actually we have some control and we understand exactly what's going on with that Facebook group. We can't stop this group, we can't stop the rumours, we can't stop all these myths and everything that's going on and the gossip that happens with the Railway Pension Scheme. But this actually helps us and gives us an insight into the membership that actually otherwise we wouldn't get. So I actually see it's quite positive, and the fact that we've got control over this actually gives us some comfort around the fact that these guys are doing the right thing in terms of understanding the line between advice and when to point it at the portal or to us or to back to their employer.
I'm just going to have one very quick thing. Just everything Nick said is totally valid, and Dominic and David and the other admins are also, you know, great supporters of Railpen. And actually, when we've launched new things on the website, two-factor authentication is a recent example, we were able to sort of use that as a communication channel to talk to members and explain what we've done. So that's actually quite a helpful channel for us as well.
It's fantastic to see the engagement. I can see lots of hands in the room. We take the two questions. Unfortunately, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so we can just take the question on the right, please. And apologies, we've not been able to take all the questions, but engagement has been great. This Q&A panel has had the most questions, and we've beaten all of the other sections, which is fantastic, but we'll take the question from you.
Yes, we had an interesting conversation with Nick earlier. Is it time Railpen created a accredited FCA help desk for members' questions? Because as a trustee director, we will get members who come to us asking questions about pensions. Obviously, we can't give advice, but then we've got somewhere to refer them to that has a consistent information and an accurate information on railway pensions. Because sometimes, if you go to refer them to a pensions advisor, it's just pot luck who you get. And some pension advisors actually don't understand the railway pension. And just to support the two, David and Dominic there, I follow the Facebook group, and it is a very, very good group, and it enlightens people and gives them information for them to go out and then find out their own information afterwards.
Thank you.
So, well done.
Yeah, just in response to that, so whilst our investment colleagues are okay to give investment advice to their one client, the trustee, we aren't able to give advice to our members. We're not regulated to do that. So you're absolutely right, we wouldn't give advice, we wouldn't steer into that. That's not something that's in our kind of strategic sphere anytime soon. That would be a massive overhaul in terms of what we would do. What we do have though is a partnership with Liverpool Victoria, which does give that advice, so we can point members into that direction. So I'd like to think that we're growing in terms of our partnership with them, and they understand the RPS perhaps better than some of the other independents. So we found a middle ground there, we think, for that partnership.
Great. So we are out of time. What I'd like to do is, and again, I would just like to very quickly go around, because I do want to bring us back to the 30 years theme and celebrating the Railways pension scheme. And the great pension engagement dilemma and being able to engage with our members, to just go around each of our panelists, and if you could just use one word to describe how people should feel about being a member of one of the Railways pension schemes. And I am going to start with Jackie, and if you can, in one sentence, very quickly tell us what the word is, and how would you, how can the trustee and Railpen get us there in terms of engagement? So Jackie.
So my word is secure, because it's a very good scheme. People should feel secure in the fact that they've got provision for their retirement. I constantly engage with them on how we can try and do things better, or how we can do things in terms of engagement with our members, and we will keep on trying.
Thank you. John.
My word is protected. I think you saw from the kind of chronology, we managed to protect the past, the present, and we're destined to protect the future. And that's both the member, the employees that work with him here, the assets that we look after. I think that's excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I've gone for reassured. So reassured about their future, and also the idea of paying into a pension scheme. And I think the way we do that is by delivering clear, easy to understand, timely content to members.
Thank you.
Well, it's fortunate. I think we've learned today, and I knew already that Railpen seems to be a well-run, well-respected, well-funded pension organisation, and with DB scheme closures and changes recently, I just think we're very fortunate really to have such a good pension scheme.
Thank you. Dominic.
I think members should feel optimistic about the future, and how we get there. You were saying about, we've already discussed all different ways to take in the future. I think I don't think you ever do get there. I think it's going to develop, things change, and you've got to always be looking to what's happening as far as social media and technology. Keep an eye on them, and you're never going to get there. We've achieved it. It's got to be a work in progress constantly.
Thank you, Dominic. And Nick, bring us home, please.
Engaged. we should be measuring, we should be learning, and we should be improving from that measurement, and that's how we get there.
Thank you, Nick. And that was not planned, by the way. That was not scripted. It just so happens that we ended up engaged. I swear to you. But thank you, everybody, and a huge round of applause for our panelists and for your engagement.